March 9, 1945. Tokyo, Shitamachi District. The sirens begin just before midnight, thin, mechanical howls slicing through the damp air. They are not new sounds. Tokyo has heard them before. But tonight, something in the wind feels wrong. Mrs. Sato Haruko, 39 years old, kneels on tatami mats inside her narrow wooden home near the Sumida River. The walls are paper, shoji screens stretched tight in cedar frames. Her husband is away, conscripted into a factory battalion. Her two children sleep side by side, wrapped in cotton futons. Outside, the city murmurs. Clogs on stone, distant engines, a low, uneasy rustle like breath being held. Above the clouds, B-29 superfortresses from the U.S. 21 bomber command level off at low altitude, just 5,000 to 7,000 feet. This is new. Tokyo's civilians have learned to look high into the sky for silver specks. Tonight, the bombers are close enough that the engines vibrate windows and ribs alike. 4 Wright R-3350 engines per aircraft, a heavy, steady thunder rolling in waves. The first explosions are not concussive. They do not shatter glass or collapse roofs. Instead, there is a sound like rain hitting dry leaves. Incendiaries. Clusters of M69 napalm bombs fall and burst open midair, scattering burning gel the color of molten amber. They punch through rooftops and roll under floorboards. Napalm clings. It crawls. It feeds on air. Mrs. Sato slides the shoji open and steps into the alley. The night sky has turned orange. Not in flashes, but as a constant glow, like dawn arriving all at once from every direction. Somewhere, a man shouts Kajida, fire. A woman screams for her mother. The sound of running feet multiplies, echoing through lanes barely wide enough for a cart. Tokyo's homes are built for earthquakes, not for firestorms. Light timber frames, paper walls, roofs of wood and tile. For generations, people believed this flexibility was strength. If a house burned, it could be rebuilt. Fires had always been part of city life. But this is not a fire. This is a system. The bombers fly in carefully planned paths, laying intersecting lines of flame. The fires merge. Heat builds. Air begins to move. The wind accelerates, drawn inward toward the inferno's core. Within minutes, it becomes impossible to stand upright. Oxygen is ripped from lungs. People fall without burns, suffocated where they run. Mrs. Sato wraps wet towels around her children's faces, the way civil defense pamphlets taught her. She grabs a small cloth bundle, family register, a few coins, and pushes into the street. The heat is already blistering skin. Flames leap from roof to roof without touching the ground, riding the wind. Sparks rain down like living things, embedding themselves in sleeves and hair. A man collapses clutching a bicycle. A woman's kimono ignites at the hem and climbs her body faster than hands can beat it out. Somewhere behind them, a Type 98 fire pump coughs uselessly. Water pressure fails almost immediately. Wooden buckets pass hand to hand, but the flames ignore them, devouring entire blocks in seconds. The children begin to cry, not loudly. There is no breath to spare. As they reach a wider road, the wind reverses violently. This is the firestorm forming. Temperatures surge beyond 1800 degrees Fahrenheit. Asphalt softens. Roof tiles explode like shrapnel. People are lifted off their feet and thrown back into burning streets. Mrs. Sato sees something that breaks her certainty of the world. A house, one she has known for years, simply disappears. Not collapses. Not burned slowly. It vanishes, engulfed so completely that within moments nothing remains but glowing embers outlining where walls once stood. The paper screens, the beams, the tatami, gone, as if erased. For the first time, a thought flashes through her mind, sharp and disbelieving. These houses were never meant to survive this. Overhead, an American bombardier watches through a glass nose cone as the city transforms into a single pulsing flame. Training manuals warned of conflagration potential. No one used words like wind that kills or fire that hunts. On the ground, Tokyo's civilians run toward rivers and canals, the only places not yet burning. Some plunge into the water clutching children. Others hesitate too long on bridges that soon glow red-hot beneath their feet. Misses. Sato reaches the embankment of the Sumida. The water reflects a city on fire from horizon to horizon. The roar is constant now, a living thing louder than engines, louder than screaming. She looks back once. The neighborhood she grew up in is no longer a place. It is light and heat and motion, devouring everything she believed was solid. The night is far from over. March 10, 1945. Shortly after 1:00 a.m. Tokyo, along the Sumida River. The riverbank is already crowded, thousands pressed together, silhouettes flickering in the reflected blaze. Some are half naked, clothes burned away. Others clutch bundles that smoke and hiss, soaked too late. The air tastes metallic, sharp enough to sting the tongue. Every breath feels borrowed. Misses. Sato forces her children down the embankment. The mud is slick with ash. People shove without malice. Panic has stripped language from the night. Someone slips into the water and vanishes without a sound. There is no strength left for screaming. Behind them, the firestorm tightens its grip. The wind now blows into the flames from every direction, a man-made weather system born of heat and design. Gusts reach hurricane force. Wooden beams, entire roof sections, are torn loose and flung like spears. Burning tatami mats cartwheel through the air and slap into the river, hissing violently before drifting downstream as floating embers. Nearby, an elderly man collapses, his chest unmoving. No burns, just empty lungs. The fire has consumed the oxygen around him. Across the river, whole wards are disappearing in sequence. Hanjo, Fukagawa, Asakusa. The city burns not as scattered fires, but as a single organism, feeding, expanding, breathing. The planners in the Pacific called it area bombing. On the ground, it feels like the end of the world arriving block by block. Above the inferno, Brigadier General Curtis LeMay's strategy unfolds exactly as calculated. The B-29s have stripped away defensive guns and fly low, slow, methodical. Crews watch the flames merge through breaks in the smoke. Some airmen cheer. Others go silent. Sergeant William Andrews, tail gunner on Lucky Lady 2, leans into his intercom. "Christ, it's all burning." No one answers. The bombers peel away one by one, their bellies empty. They leave behind a city that no longer needs bombs to keep burning. On the riverbank, Mrs. Sato wades in up to her knees. The water is warm, unsettlingly so. Bodies bump against her legs. Some still move. Others do not. She lifts her youngest onto her shoulders, whispering into his ear, words she no longer believes will help. Around her, people cling to boats, to driftwood, to each other. A woman holds a baby already gone, rocking gently as sparks land on her hair. A man beats his hands raw, trying to tear burning cloth from his wife's back. The bridges upstream are impassable. Steel railings glow dull red. Those who tried to cross earlier now lie where they fell, shadows burned into concrete where bodies once blocked the heat for a moment longer than the ground around them. As the hours crawl past, the fire consumes even its own fuel. Neighborhoods that were dense and alive at midnight are reduced to fields of ash before dawn. The wind finally weakens, not out of mercy, but because there is less left to burn. Just before sunrise, a strange quiet settles. The roar fades to crackling, then to popping embers. Smoke rolls low and thick, turning the rising sun into a dull red smear. People begin to climb out of the river, slipping, shivering, eyes wide and unseeing. Mrs. Sato's children are alive. That is the only thing she can be sure of. She walks inland, barefoot over glassy slag where streets once were. Familiar landmarks are gone. Shops, shrines, schools erased. In their place lie twisted nails, warped cookware, blackened tree stumps still smoking at the roots. She stops where her home should be. There is nothing. No frame. No walls. Not even a recognizable outline. Just ash still warm, with fragments of roof tile half melted into the ground. Her knees give way. She sits without sound, hands sinking into soot that stains her skin instantly. Around her, others do the same, standing where their lives used to be, unable to understand how something so permanent could vanish in a single night. For decades, they had believed their homes were fragile but resilient, rebuildable, temporary by design. No one had imagined a fire that made rebuilding irrelevant. As the sun climbs higher, survivors begin to realize the scale of what has happened. Corpses line canals and roads, many unburned but frozen in final positions of flight. Later estimates will speak of over 100,000 dead in one night. But in these first hours, numbers mean nothing. What matters is absence. A woman walks past Mrs. Sato holding a charred doorframe like a relic. A child asks where the city went. No one answers. Tokyo still smokes. And even as this dawn breaks, other cities, Nagoya, Osaka, Kobe, wait unknowingly for nights just like this. The lesson is settling in, heavy and unavoidable. Paper houses cannot survive firestorms. March 11, 1945. Tokyo, morning to evening. By mid-morning, the smoke hangs so thick it blots out the sky entirely. The sun is a rumor, an orange smear behind layers of ash. Survivors move through the ruins slowly, as if afraid the ground itself might collapse if stepped on too firmly. Mrs. Sato joins the silent flow of people heading north. No one speaks. Voices feel inappropriate here. Each step crunches. Bone fragments mix with roof tiles, pottery, glass fused into strange new shapes by heat no kiln had ever reached. Civil defense officials appear sporadically, their armbands gray with soot. They gesture, point, wave people onward. There are no instructions beyond move. Hospitals are gone. Clinics burned with patients inside. Schools designated as shelters are now blackened shells. At Ueno Park, the grass is carpeted with refugees. Families sit in stunned clusters, wrapped in borrowed blankets, staring into nothing. Some mutter prayers. Others argue quietly over scraps of food found in the ruins. Half-melted rice bowls, scorched sweet potatoes pulled from still warm ashes. Rumors move faster than officials. They burned the air, one man says, voice hoarse. The fire chased people, another insists. It followed them. A former carpenter runs his hands through his hair and laughs once, sharply. We always said wood bends, not breaks. That's what saved us from earthquakes, but fire. He stops, unable to finish. For generations, Japanese cities had accepted fire as a familiar enemy. Edo had burned dozens of times. Entire districts rebuilt themselves again and again. Light materials meant faster reconstruction. Loss was terrible, but survivable. This was something else entirely. As the day wears on, military trucks arrive, not with aid but with orders. Survivors are told to clear bodies from roads. Piles grow quickly, laid out with careful hands, faces covered where possible. Identification is impossible. Many bodies are burned beyond recognition. Others are intact, eyes open, skin unmarked, killed by heat and lack of oxygen rather than flame. Mrs. Sato helps where she can, handing water to the living, cloths to those tending the dead. Her hands shake constantly now, a tremor she cannot stop. When she closes her eyes, she hears the wind again, the roar, the scream of it. That evening, the radio crackles to life in an intact government building miles away. Officials speak in controlled tones about extensive damage and heavy casualties. No numbers are given. The emperor's voice is absent. Silence fills the gaps between announcements. Elsewhere in Japan, people listen. In Nagoya, factory workers pause uneasy. In Osaka, mothers look up at their ceilings, wooden beams, paper screens, and imagine them alight. In Kobe, dockworkers joke nervously that Tokyo was always unlucky. But the laughter doesn't last. American bombers are already being refueled. March 13, 1945. Osaka. The sirens sound familiar now. People move with practiced efficiency. Water buckets, evacuation bags, designated routes. Confidence still lingers. We know fires. Then the incendiaries fall. Osaka burns differently, but no less completely. The same low-flying bombers. The same pattern. The same wind rising as if summoned. Wooden row houses vanish in minutes. Concrete structures survive only as shells, their interiors incinerated. Civilians flee toward canals and open ground, repeating the desperate pilgrimage Tokyo made days earlier. Some recognize the signs now, the sudden heat, the air pulling inward, and panic erupts sooner. It does not save them. By March 16th, Kobe follows. Then Nagoya again. Each city loses tens of thousands in hours. The pattern is unmistakable. And slowly, terribly, belief dies. The belief that homes can bend and survive. The belief that cities can burn without being erased. The belief that civilians are not the target. Mrs. Sato hears about Osaka days later from a man who walked for 2 nights to reach relatives. His face is gray with exhaustion. Same fire, he says simply. Same wind. She nods. There is nothing left to argue. Around her, Tokyo's survivors begin building shacks from scrap, corrugated metal, charred boards, anything not yet claimed by flame. But the old way of living is gone. Every wooden beam now looks like a liability. Every paper wall feels like a death sentence waiting for a spark. Children wake screaming from dreams of wind and light. Adults flinch at distant engine noise, even when it's only trucks. People scan the sky instinctively, measuring clouds for the shape of bombers. The Americans will later call this phase of the war decisive. Planners will write reports praising efficiency. Fire scientists will study the results with clinical fascination. But on the ground, among civilians who once trusted their cities to endure, a different understanding takes root. The house is no longer shelter. The city itself has become fuel. And if the bombers return again, and everyone knows they will, there will be nowhere left to run. April 1945. Tokyo and Greater Japan. By April, the nights are no longer quiet. Even when the sky is empty, people hear engines that aren't there. A passing truck sends heads snapping upward. Wind rattling loose tin makes children cry out. Sleep comes in fragments, broken by the expectation of sirens. Mrs. Sato lives now in a shack assembled from scavenged sheet metal and scorched planks on the edge of what used to be Hanjo Ward. There is no neighborhood, only a flat, gray plain dotted with makeshift shelters and chimneys that rise like gravestones. The smell never leaves. Smoke has soaked into clothing, skin, lungs. Each evening she prepares the same ritual. Water buckets lined up. Wet cloths ready. Documents wrapped in oil paper. Her children know the drill better than multiplication tables. When the sun sets, they sit close listening. Across Japan, millions do the same. The government distributes pamphlets insisting that survival is possible. Stay calm. Fight fires early. The words feel insulting now. Everyone has seen what early means against napalm and wind that moves faster than running feet. April 13, 1945. Tokyo again. The sirens begin just after midnight. This time, there is no hesitation. People flee immediately, toward rivers, toward empty ground, toward memories of where safety once was. The bombers arrive in waves, their outlines briefly visible against burning clouds. Incendiaries fall, and fires bloom like living things, reaching outward with deliberate speed. But something has changed. The city is already hollowed out. Vast areas are nothing but ash. Fire spreads, but unevenly now, skipping across scars where nothing remains to feed it. Some districts burn fiercely. Others sputter and die. Survivors watch with a grim, exhausted understanding. The city has already paid much of its price. Still, thousands die. Still, homes vanish. Still, the air turns lethal. Mrs. Sato survives again, by luck more than preparation. By dawn, she helps pull bodies from a canal, the water black and oily with residue. She does not cry. Tears feel like a luxury from another life. Elsewhere, the same pattern repeats. April 14th, Kawasaki. April 15th, Yokohama. April 16th, Tokyo once more. Each raid reinforces the lesson burned into the national consciousness. Cities built of wood and paper are helpless against modern war. Earthquakes can be endured. Fires can be rebuilt from. Firestorms erase. American planners take note of the results. Damage assessments show entire urban centers reduced by 40, 50, 60%. Factory output collapses, not from bombed machinery, but from the disappearance of workers and housing. The strategy is working. In Japan, civilians draw a different conclusion. There is no safe rear. There is no civilian space. War has come for the houses, the children, the very idea of shelter. By late April, whispers spread of a new weapon being tested, something more powerful than fire. Most dismiss it as rumor. After what they have seen, how could anything be worse? Mrs. Sato hears the rumor from a man trading rice for nails. She looks out over the ruins and thinks of the night Tokyo vanished, of air turning into a weapon, of homes evaporating. She does not ask questions. She has learned what modern war can do to cities made of light. And deep down, she knows the bombers are not finished yet. They are only waiting for clear skies. May-June 1945. Japan's home islands. By May, the sky itself feels hostile. Clear weather no longer brings relief, it brings dread. Children are taught to fear blue skies more than storms. Clouds mean bombers might turn back. Sun means they will come. Mrs. Sato no longer counts days. She measures time by raids. Tokyo burns again on May 25th. Not as completely as before, but violently enough. Fire leaps across districts thought safe. Concrete buildings survive structurally, but their interiors are cooked alive. Furniture reduced to charcoal, stairwells turned into chimneys. Those who shelter inside learn too late that walls without oxygen are coffins. Across Japan, the same lesson repeats. In Toyama, nearly the entire city is wiped out in a single night. In Akiyama, fires move so fast that evacuation routes become traps. In Shizuoka, people reach the hills and watch their homes collapse into glowing grids below, as if the earth itself has been sketched in flame. By now, civilians no longer speak of if they will lose their homes, only when. Wooden houses are abandoned preemptively. Families dismantle their own walls for firewood, believing it better to choose how a home ends than to watch it vanish in hours. Some sleep in fields. Others in crude shelters, dug into riverbanks or hillsides. Traditional architecture, once a source of pride, has become a curse. Paper walls that once let light and breeze flow freely now feel like invitations to death. Tatami mats absorb flame like sponges. Roofs ignite from drifting embers kilometers away. Entire communities are forced to confront the same impossible truth. What worked for centuries cannot survive this war. American reconnaissance photos taken weeks later show the result with brutal clarity. Cities transformed into pale scars visible from miles above. Analysts trace wind patterns, flame spread, destruction ratios. The science of burning cities advances rapidly. On the ground, the cost is counted in faces no longer seen. Mrs. Sato's neighbor from before the war never reappears. Neither does the old shopkeeper near the bridge, nor the schoolteacher who taught her children to write their names. They are not listed anywhere. They are simply gone, absorbed into ash, smoke, river silt. August approaches. Food is scarce. Morale is worse. People exist in a state of waiting, too exhausted to panic, too aware to hope. When sirens sound, bodies move automatically. When they do not, the silence itself is unbearable. Then on August 6th, rumors arrive from the west. A single bomb. One plane. One city, Hiroshima, gone. At first, no one believes it. How could one bomb do what hundreds of bombers did? How could anything exceed the firestorms already endured? 3 days later, Nagasaki answers that question. Mrs. Sato hears the emperor's voice on August 15th, thin and distant through a borrowed radio. The war is over. The words feel unreal, floating above ruins that seem permanent. People bow. Some cry. Some stare blankly. For those who survived the incendiary raids, the end of war does not bring relief so much as release. From waiting, from listening for engines, from measuring nights by how much burns. In the months that follow, cities begin to rebuild. Slowly. Cautiously. New materials appear: concrete, steel, brick. Fire codes change. Urban planners redraw neighborhoods with wider streets, brakes meant to stop flames from running unchecked. Japan learns painfully what modern war demands of architecture. Mrs. Sato eventually moves into a small concrete apartment. The walls feel strange, cold, heavy, permanent. There are no paper screens. No tatami. When she lights a cooking fire, she watches it carefully, even years later. At night, when the wind rises, she still listens. She remembers a city that trusted lightness, a culture that believed flexibility meant survival, and the night when fire proved otherwise. The firestorms of 1945 did more than destroy cities. They burned away illusions. They taught civilians, brutally, irrevocably, that in modern war, even homes can become weapons against the people inside them, and that paper houses, no matter how beautiful, cannot survive a sky that rains fire.